Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Tyrone back with Tech Life. And before I get this video started, I hope all of you had a great Christmas that do celebrate it. I hope you guys got lots of presents, lots of family time. I know right now the gatherings were still supposed to be small because of the situation, but I hope most of you made the best out of it. So this video is going to be a bit longer. This will be my predictions video for 2021 since we are almost at the end of 2020. And I'll be breaking down each carrier and what I think is going to happen with that specific carrier in 2021 and just give my predictions. Of course, again, I'm no financial advisor, so don't take any of this to heart and base that on your stock purchase or selling stocks. I'm just making the prediction of my own. This is my opinion, and that's why I wanted to make this video. As I usually do, I make the prediction videos, then I make the coverage comparison videos. So be looking forward to the coverage comparison for the end of 2020 as well. I should be able to upload that in the next couple of days. So I'll start off this first one with Verizon and what my predictions are for Verizon in 2021. So right now, all carriers are going through a very, very aggressive spectrum auction. The C-band spectrum, and it's in the 3.7 gigahertz. Now, if you are new to the channel, why is this spectrum so important? Why is the amount so large that these carriers are spending? And there could be several reasons. Maybe CBRS is not going to be high powered. Maybe some carriers have changed their strategy on millimeter wave. We just don't know at this point. Or it's just an all out bidding war. The carriers are just going at it. Maybe they started realizing, okay, we do need a real solid mid-band layer to really push speeds and performance to a next generational level besides what millimeter wave is currently doing. So that's currently what's happening. And of course, Verizon has partaken in that spectrum auction as well. And they are, by many analysts, many estimates, and this is not just one. There's many out there. There's UBS, there's Light Reading, there's many others, and all of them come to one agreement. Verizon is spending the most. They are in the lead by far. They are spending very heavy on this spectrum. If you look at their overall portfolio, they have been spectrum starved for a long time now. They hardly spent any money on spectrum during the LTE era, and many people said that it would come back to bite Verizon in the behind. And that really wasn't the case so much because the trade-off was we're not spending money on spectrum, but we're going to invest on densification. And that's why I think, again, this is a prediction. This is why I'm predicting Verizon to really come out and shine in 2021 and beyond, of course, once the spectrum clears and they are able to really get that spectrum on air. So yes, T-Mobile may strike first, and I'll give you my prediction on them here later in the video. But once Verizon strikes, they're going to strike hard, and they're going to come in hot when they strike. So now, how and why and when is Verizon going to be able to achieve this? So the how is they needed the spectrum, so they're spending a ton of money on it. So that's how they're able to achieve the that performance that's coming in the future. They're spending a lot of money, and that's how they're able to obtain that spectrum. Now, many people are saying, why is Verizon doing this? It's probably going to raise something throughout the company. Whether it be your bill, fees, whatever it is, Verizon is likely to go up in price for the fact that they're spending so much on the spectrum and then also deploying it once it's cleared. And then the when is really like up to the relocation fees. You know, how fast can they really relocate that spectrum? And it's going to be expensive relocating that spectrum as well. So that's what it's going to come down to for Verizon. But I think they work very quick. I think they increase their capital investment for next year and 2022. I do think they become a money pit, at least short term, but I think they have plenty of strategies on how to gain additional revenue and still remain a pure wireless player. So I don't think they go and expand Fios. Although I do think that would be a good opportunity for them to move Fios to an OTT platform and start selling it nationwide. Couple that with their home internet, I think that would be a good play. But I think they have huge upsell opportunity for TracFone, and I'm about 95% sure that deal goes through. I don't think there'll be any pushback on that deal. So there's about 95% chance of that deal going through. So huge upsell potential. You could potentially, if you're Verizon, also bring your home internet product to the prepaid side. Why not? There's there's many ways of selling that product. You know, maybe with prepaid, you sell it a little cheaper, but you have maybe a cap or a slower speed versus your postpaid side. So I think there's many opportunities for Verizon to really stretch this and make a lot of money off of it. Then we all know it seems Verizon is kind of going away from the government side because AT&T is stepping in. So now Verizon is focused on enterprise. So lots of movement there, and there's lots of money to be made from that. Walgreens recently signed up with Verizon to use Verizon's 5G inside their stores, and who knows what that brings. You know, they're going to use it for the telehealth, healthcare side, and who knows, maybe Walgreens figures out something else. You know, maybe for their point of sale system. Who knows? So there's plenty of opportunity for Verizon to make additional revenue to where they don't really necessarily have to raise the prices of their bills too significantly. Because right now we're down to 3 carriers for the foreseeable future until Dish steps in fully. So if Verizon goes too high on the bills, people could potentially choose another carrier over them based on the raising of the price. So that's kind of where I stand with Verizon. I think they chose to build 5G instead of upgrade 5G. So they will still upgrade 5G once they get C-band, and they're going to put new panels and new radios. But I think whenever that decision was made where they wouldn't buy spectrum and choose densification over the spectrum, I think in the long run, it's going to play out well for them because they spent heavy money on densification, which is also time consuming. So they kept putting permits. Then they got the macro footprint to a very high level, which was needed because they had a low spectrum position. Then they incorporated the small cell C-RAN. Now they're the furthest along the millimeter wave deployment by a long shot. No carrier is as focused as them right now. AT&T is second. T-Mobile is not really doing any C-RAN millimeter wave at this point in time unless it's on the macro. So I still think Verizon takes the lead in 5G. T-Mobile strikes first. I think that's a safe bet. But once Verizon strikes, they're gonna strike very hard, and they're gonna overtake the lead very quickly. The engineers, the higher ups, the executive teams at Verizon, they pride themselves in having the best network. So if they do fall to second, third, or even lower, they're not gonna take that at all. They're gonna be very motivated to shoot ahead of everyone. And I think they accomplished this. It's going to take a little bit of more money. It's definitely going to cost them a lot, but I think they achieve it. And I think they get there. And I don't think the consumer will have to suffer on this investment because there'll be so many other segments for Verizon to increase, not increase, but to upsell, and for the wireless pricing to fairly remain the same as it has been. So that's that ends the segment on Verizon. I think they did a great job on Disney bundling to attract customers, foot traffic in stores. Great, they have great rebates, some great phone deals. They're right up there with the other two. They're not far off. Their pricing, you could say, is still a little bit more on the higher side, but that's for me that's perfectly justifiable based on the high network ratings and how it's performing on the LTE side still. While everyone else is jumping to 5G, Verizon is still improving its LTE network. So that speaks volumes in my opinion. So second, I wanted to speak on AT&T. My predictions 2021, still kind of confused about AT&T. Don't really know what they're focused on. I think many of you are in the same boat. HBO Max is going to definitely take off. We had the launch of Wonder Woman on the platform, same day as movies. It seemed to have gone well. First 4K HDR content on the platform, so it looks beautiful. I'm going to watch it again tonight. So that I see that being their biggest, newest revenue driver in the entire company. I think that product is going to sell itself. AT&T likely won't have to put too much money behind it in terms of marketing because it's going to sell itself. It's a huge product. This is how they're leveraging the Time Warner purchase by making this product hot. This is going to be subscriptions are going to come at volumes, especially as it goes global. So how do we rate AT&T in terms of them being a pure wireless player, which they're clearly not. They're heavily involved in media, and they're also heavily involved with rolling out fiber and going into the homes with the home broadband. Now, does that necessarily position AT&T the best to not have to raise wireless pricing as everything gets more expensive in wireless, such as this spectrum purchase of C-band, rolling the panels out, adding more densification? You could make the argument that AT&T is best positioned to offset that cost with its media division and with the home broadband, which is growing. The fiber, wherever they're laying new fiber, that segment is growing tremendously. Same with media now that they're potentially going to get rid of DirecTV off the books, and then with the OTT streaming, they're gonna make some big moves in 21 on that. So I think the revenue growth, the profitability is there for AT&T, but as they shift focus to more wireless, I think they need to stick with that for a good amount of time because it is still the most moneymaker overall in the company. Wireless drives the most revenue across the board. Everything else is minimal. It's like wireless is like 85%, and then media maybe 10, and then everything else is like 2, 3, 4, 5%. So wireless needed to be a huge focus for AT&T, but as in the past with 2G, 3G, 4G, LTE, they let Verizon take the lead early on, and they always caught up at the very end of the generation, and then all of a sudden they had the better product, but the competition was already moving on to the next generation of wireless. So it's kind of happening again with AT&T, and T, and thanks to FirstNet, they're now really clearly boasting the best LTE network in both speeds and the newer technology that they have on board now because of the one touch strategy where they go to the site one time and they upgrade everything. So they really, if we really break it down, even versus Verizon, they have the newest cell sites out there with the 4x4 MIMO, 256 QAM, newer radios, more spectrum. Verizon still has a lot of sites out in the wild that haven't been touched in a long time that are still 2x2. They're they're band 13 only. Verizon still has a lot of those sites out there. That's kind of a negative there for Verizon. And AT&T is shooting to have the best performing coverage on LTE, but again, it's in the later part of the generation, whereas Verizon clearly shifting towards 5G, and T-Mobile has done so, 3 years ago. So it's still very evident that AT&T now has chosen still coverage over density. A lot of people are telling me, emailing me, hey man, AT&T is last in density in my market. They have the least amount of sites, least amount of small cells, and it's the same here for my market. I know there's other markets out there, but it seems like it's very rare, like Philadelphia, Phoenix, Chicago, New York, where AT&T is getting up there in density, but they're still nowhere near the competition in terms of the tower grid in most of those markets. And now that they favor CRAN, a lot of people are a bit confused as to why they're going so heavy on CRAN, and some are still suggesting that they would like a couple of more macros at least instead of just all pure CRAN. But it seems that's the way that AT&T is engineering the next generation of their wireless network. Seems they're going with CRAN, which is going to be a good offloading site for that area. But in places like El Paso, they've chosen to use the CRAN as actual coverage. So they're adding low band onto the small cells, which is very rare. I'm hearing small cells are supposed to be offload sites that are capacitive, so they usually only have support for mid band, not low band. But the ones here, low band, so they're still going to have to place a good amount of them not too far apart to really make that work. The macro itself can still push further, it can still cover more. Also, additional redundancy can be built into the macro, so when it goes down or there's a power outage, there are backup generators and all that good stuff. Most of the CRAN, you have a power outage, you're gonna have no service until the power comes back up. So 21 for AT&T looks tricky. We need to see how they approach 21. We need to see where they end up 21. We need to see how aggressive they get on wireless. That the coverage versus density, they have to start favoring density. They have to start favoring millimeter wave at a pace, if not more, than Verizon. AT&T clearly stated about a year ago that they want to become the network leader, and they had the spectrum portfolio to do it, but they never built at the same pace as Verizon. So when Verizon chose density over spectrum, they clearly meant it and they invested towards that. So now Verizon is investing in spectrum, and you add that onto that grid. Oh, it's gonna be explosive. It's gonna be a very very fast tower grid. So that'll be something that AT&T will have to compete against. And now that they're more heavily involved in the original content for HBO Max and the home broadband side for fiber, which they recently said is going to go up in the yearly cost that they spend on it, their capital is heavily, you can subtract a good amount of that capex. So recently we were calculating, me and a friend of mine, that AT&T could spend potentially about a billion less than T-Mobile on purely wireless itself, because fiber and the original content that AT&T is investing in is taking a good chunk of that money from the actual wireless side. So it'll be interesting to see what AT&T does. AT&T is also anticipated to raise their wireless capex next year, so be on the lookout for that in January. Towards the end is when AT&T is going to report their quarterly earnings. So last but not least, I'm gonna give my predictions for T-Mobile for 21, and then we'll end the video. Like I said, it's going to be a longer video, but this will be the last prediction of the video. So T-Mobile for 21, I think for many, T-Mobile in 21 is going to become a shock. The reason I say a shock is because they're right now the only network that's pushing in a transformational spectrum layer onto their grid. So for many, as we start seeing all the speed tests come online on Twitter and people start making videos and Reddit, we start seeing, oh man, T-Mobile is going from 40 to 60 megahertz, 60 to 80, 80 to 100. And then by mid next year, I've been told they're looking to boost backhaul to 5, 10 gigabits per second based on traffic and areas and sites. So we're going to start seeing some very fast speeds early on from T-Mobile. Very fast. The scalability of 2.5 Sprint spectrum that they acquired when they merged is going to be tremendous in 2021. I don't doubt that. They're going to be upgrade intensive. Panels are going to go up anywhere. To be quite honest with you, from what I've seen the last few days, I think I'm very confident in Q2, the second quarter of 2021, T-Mobile is going to be 100% done in El Paso. That's how confident I am. I've seen them work in the last 4 months. They went crazy in this market with with the upgrades and the layovers. So that I don't see that slowing down. Of course, right now they're favoring the top 20, top 50, top 100 markets. So that's going to be heavy in 21. They're going to look at fully capitalizing that entire full year of a higher capital investment on getting the network up to par. And then T-Mobile is going to be very busy on really fully truly realizing the synergies. So now the synergies were based on the Sprint merger, and now that they're combined, there's a decommission process that they'll have to go through next year and then ramp that up in 22. I can guarantee you guys T-Mobile is itching to get those Sprint customers off of the Sprint system. They are itching. They have 3 full years. It's going to be frustrating for them. They may not tell you publicly, but it's frustrating even for the retail store reps. So it's going to be very interesting to see how quickly they move Sprint customers and migrate them to T-Mobile. They have to do it at an aggressive rate. And I think the best way to do that, it might cost them a little money, but I think they need to match the Sprint plans, not one for one, but they need to get very close. The Sprint value was very great. So I think they need to go maybe have a plan that's more premium, and they need to go up to 100 gigabytes of hotspot. And maybe add Hulu, maybe add Amazon Prime, who knows? Like I said, they don't have to go one for one, but they need to get very, very close to make it very comparable, to make it attractive to where the Sprint customer says, well, why am I going to have this keep the Sprint plan if T-Mobile has this almost the same plan? So that's kind of what I was thinking. I still think T-Mobile is going to position themselves as the value leader, so that's not changing. And then the network is going to be backed up by the 2.5 spectrum that they got from Sprint. So don't be surprised if you start seeing insane speeds, if you start seeing Root Metrics, Ookla, the third-party testing firms put T-Mobile at number one. Do not be surprised. I see that happening short term. Like I said, T-Mobile is going to strike first, but once Verizon strikes, they're going to strike heavy, and they're gonna come in hot with their own fiber. They're gonna boost that fiber up. It's gonna be backhaul intensive, and they're gonna be having some pretty fast speeds. But T-Mobile won't be a slouch. We're already seeing in New York City they boosted it from 40 to 60 megahertz. So they're doing things behind closed doors as well to always keep the network up and running. But again, T-Mobile is kind of a wait and see approach as well, like AT&T. We don't know how T-Vision is going to do. We don't know what the home internet is going to do. So we will have an idea come Q1, well Q4 actually. We should have somewhat of an idea what those numbers look like. and then we'll have to see throughout 21, can they maintain those numbers? Is the churn going to remain low on that product? So that'll be something very interesting to see. So I think right now, Verizon has the clearest strategy of the top three nationwide carriers. I think their strategy is just going to work. I don't think there's a wait and see approach on that. I think they're heavy on C band. Track phone is going to get approved. They got their third party bundling. I don't think they go any beyond that. They just got Discovery Plus as well, Apple Music. Intense value on those plans. So AT&T again, it's kind of a wait and see approach. How does it play out with home broadband? Are they going to get even more aggressive on that? Is HBO Max really going to shoot up to the expectations once it goes globally? That's another question. Are they finally going to finalize the DirecTV deal? Many say it's not a if, but a when. So that's going to be something that we have to see through 21, because apparently AT&T is not happy with the lowballing that they're getting from the bidders on DirecTV. So, and then with T-Mobile, it's how is T-Vision doing? Is it going to be able to keep the customers? And then the same with the home internet product. And then now that they have the 5G router available, to see if that product gets even better with the N41. So those are kind of my predictions for the year 2021. A longer video, as I mentioned twice. Just wanted to do this for you guys to see what you guys think in the comment section. So yes, definitely leave all your comments in the comment sections. If you want to leave your predictions, that's fine too. Like I said, I'm very firm on those. Those are my opinions, of course. None of this is factual. We don't know how it's going to happen. I just think Verizon has the purest, clearest strategy. They enter prepaid, they get track phone, they upsell it. They're going to push millimeter wave. They're going to get C-band. They're leading in that race. They have the density, which is getting better in 21. They're going to add more density because they have they can't tap into that C-band until the end of next year, maybe a little sooner. So what does Verizon do? Well, they add more density. They still spend. They add more density. Maybe add some CBRS. Maybe they add new panels. Maybe there's a new panel set that's more efficient. So there's a very clear strategy. With the other two, it's going to be a wait and see approach. Is that going to work? Is HBO going to work? Home broadband, is it going to expand as quickly as they hope? And then T-Mobile with T-Vision and their home internet. So leave all your comments in the comment section down below. If you have been on the channel or you are new to the channel and you have not yet liked, share, subscribed, make sure you do so. Hit the notification bell so you are notified when I do upload content. Also, follow the social media outlets for more updates. I am posting the videos on the Twitter. So in case you are not getting notified from YouTube, make sure to follow my Twitter and make sure to follow my Instagram. I'm posting pictures of the N41 rollout here in El Paso as fast as they come. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.